Namaskaram. Warm welcome to all of you on this auspicious day of Ram Navami that coincides with the Chaitra Navaratri. We had a beautiful session on Devi a few days back, and it is very auspicious to correlate and understand what this Navami and why Rama Navami coincides with the Navami of the Navaratri. Before that, the 9th day of the Navaratri is attributed to Devi Siddhidatri. Siddhidatri. Navamam Siddhidatri cha. It says in the Durga Kavach, which all of us have learned. Siddhi. What does Siddhi mean? In a common understanding, all of us know Siddhi means certain powers, certain accomplishments. But in the real sense, in today's time, what is the greatest power? Because we have enough power in other ways, right? Money power, right? Social power, media power. We have different powers. But one power that we really lack is the understanding of who we are and the power of who we are. And when we don't understand the power of who we are, then we are always confused, searching. And therefore, Devi Siddhidatri represents that power which stands for knowledge, which stands for the access to wisdom, the power, the energy that removes our ignorance. And no wonder it coincides with the Rama Navami. Because when ignorance ends, when the real knowledge dawns, one realizes the real Rama, the Atma Rama. Who is Rama? That understanding comes to us when we understand what is Ramayana. Ayana. Ayana itself means journey or path or story. So whose story is this? The story of Rama. Atma Rama. We all know the story of Ramayana, so I won't be getting into the details of every part of the story. But this session, we will divide it into two parts. One part we will do now on the occasion of Rama Navami, and the other part we will do on the day of Dashera, which is the 10th day after Navaratri, which is again considered as the homecoming of Rama after victory over Ravana. So, simply put, the greatest siddhi is to realize who you are, and not just about realizing who you are as a very, passive way, but expressing that in one's life with that understanding is the Ramayana. So the story we all know starts in Ayodhya. Ayodhya, a place where battles were never fought, where yuddhas did not happen. Where are most of our battles fought? In our mind. Right? So also here, Ayodhya represented that place which was extremely abundant, prosperous, flourishing, led by the king Dasharatha. Dasha itself means 10. Ratha means chariots or leading in 10 ways, directions. Why was he called Dasharatha? Because he could control 10 directions. What are the 10 directions? Of course, we know east, west, north, south. And then we have the konas, the diagonals in between these, right? So that makes it the 8 directions. Dasha, the up and the down. So Dasharatha, the one who could control the reins of his mind running in 10 directions also was called Dasharatha. Right? And that is why he was invited even by Indra to Swarga to fight for him. And such was the king, Dasharatha, who had 3 wives. And who were they? Kaushalya, right? Sumitra and Kaikeyi. Now, it is very interesting to understand that when we say the mind should control the 10 directions, what does it mean? It means the 10 indriyas, the karma indriyas and the jnana indriyas, which pull us in different directions. If we go back to Tattvabodha of Adi Shankara, he speaks about these 10 as different directions governed by various devatas operating within us and controlled by the mind. So here Dasharatha represents control of the 10 senses or the 10 indriyas. That is why he could assist even Indra to win a war, isn't it? So when the mind is governed when the mind governs these 10 indriyas, things are ayudhya. There are no fights, there are no wars happening. However, we saw that he was married to 3 wives. Kaushalya, it means Kushala, the one who thought and always believed in the well-being of everyone, who held the well-being of everyone more supreme than her individuality. Right? Kaushalya, Kushala, well-being. The second being Sumitra, the friend of all. Right? The friend of all. So here, Kausalya, Sumitra and Kaikeyi, who represents the passion and compassion both at the same time. Why passion and compassion at the same time? In fact, why compassion at the same time? Because all of us know only one part of Kaikeyi, that she asked for those disastrous boons from Dasharatha, isn't it? But we don't know that she was one of the most loving queens of Dasharatha. He was extremely fond of her because she was valorous, courageous, powerful. That is how she wins. She protects Dasharatha and wins 2 boons from Dasharatha, isn't it? I'm not going to delve into the stories. I'm assuming most of you know it. So, here, Kaikeyi represents the Rajasic intellect, which is compassion on one side, and also when that compassion goes in the wrong direction, it is absolutely also loses its ability to think, overcome by the passion of what it wants to do. Now, when we understand this, I will just give you a reference how Kaikeyi was so fond of Rama. In fact, when Rama gets married and comes, her palace was one of the most beautiful palaces of the 3 queens. She was also the beloved, she was also the most pampered of the three queens, not only by Dasharatha, but also by Kaushalya and Sumitra. Right? Now, when you are always pampered, there are going to be some challenges that come forward in time. So here, when Rama in fact gets married, she offers Sita her very palace. When the news of Rama's wedding is announced, the person who comes with that news, she gives all her jewelry, she's elated, and she's always so fond of Rama. So such is her compassion. Intense. She is intense. The Rajasic Tattva makes you intense in whatever you are. Kaikeyi's Mahal was also known as Kanaka Mahal, made of gold. Right? Representing how valued she was by the king and her beloved co-queens, Sumitra and Kaushalya. So now, to such an intellect, representing three various qualities in the name of Kausalya, Sumitra and Kaikeyi were the intellects, right? Were born 4 sons. Rama. Who else? Lakshmana, Bharata and Shatrughna. It is not that Lakshmana is actually second in the rung. It's actually Rama, Bharata, right? And Shatrughna and Lakshmana. Not in the order, okay? But you know that. So then, what does Rama represent here? What does Bharata represent? What does Lakshmana represent? What does Shatrughna represent? This is very important to understand. Rama represents the pure self, the pure Atman. That is why everybody was naturally drawn to him. In the Balakanda, even Kaikeyi, in spite of, she was naturally drawn to Rama. It is natural that everyone is going to be drawn towards the self because it is the very nature of one's existence. Satchitananda. Such was the nature of Rama. Also, Rama means Ramanti, the one which is always cherishing in itself. Ramana, Ramanti. That's why when Parvati asks in the Vishnu Sahasranama, she says, look, this Vishnu Sahasranama is too long. Sahasranama, how many people, how many of us can remember it? Is there not Keno Payena Laguna Nama Sahasrakam? Is there not a small little way that I can chant and get the essence of this whole Vishnu Sahasranama? And to that, the Lord says, Shree Ram Rama Rame iti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Ramanama Varanani. Equivalent to the 1,000 names is the Nama of Rama. Ramanti, Shree Rameti. So many ways of interpreting this word, Rama. It is said to be a very potent name or a mantra in itself, not only just by its name Rama, but also because the syllables are taken from 2 extremely powerful mantras. Om Namah Shivaya, the Ma of Namah Shivaya, and Om Namo Narayanaya, the Ra of Narayana. And that makes it very powerful. Rama. It's a very piercing name that goes and hits the Hridaya straight when chanted with complete understanding of who and what this energy is all about. Okay, so we have to understand Rama, the one who is constantly reveling in himself. Ramanti iti Rama. The Atma Rama. It doesn't need anything external to feel elated or to feel joyous or to be in a state of absolute bliss. That is the meaning. That is the understanding. That is the tattva of the name Rama. Okay? So Rama represents the supreme tattva, the supreme self, the Atman self. Now, we all know of some of the great saints, Swami Samartha Ramdas, who was Shivaji's guru, Bhadrachalam Ramadasa. We also know of Papa Ramdas of Kanchangarh, in recent times, of course. And we also know of Tulsidas Ji. All of them who simply attained the tattva of Rama by assimilating the mantra of Rama. It is that potent and that powerful. Why am I repeating this? Because it is such a small little, word. So we think, oh, in fact, the smaller the mantra, the more powerful it allows you to go deep into. That is why when sannyasis, when they take up sannyasa, the only mantra they are initiated is the mantra of Om. That itself contains everything, it is said. So here, the Nama, Rama, has that deep connotation and relevance. Now, who do the brothers stand for? Bharata, Bharanti. Bharanti means to one who takes care of. Bharana, Bharanti, Bharata. Bharata here represents that aspect which stands for the love and sacrifice. That immense love to the self and ready to give up anything for it. Which is why when Rama goes for Vanavasa and he goes to meet Rama, he comes back with the Padukas of Rama, keeping them on the throne, but he never enters Ayodhya. Outside Ayodhya, he stays in a place called Nandigrama. I'm sure the word Nandi itself tells us how dedicated, what kind of love this is. The greatest love is the greatest power. Or to put it in other ways, that when it is pure love, that pure love itself becomes greatest power in us. So Bharata, in fact, even today, there is a place where he stayed in Nandigrama, and it is said that such was his devotion and sacrifice and love for Rama, that because he knew Rama in the Vanavasa would sleep on the floor, he actually made a place for himself under the floor, under the ground, under the earth. Because how can I sleep at the same level as Shree Rama? That was the kind of virtue he held. Then comes Lakshmana. Lakshmana stands for the Vairagya and the Seva. The Vairagya Bhava and the Seva. Completely aligned to Shree Rama at all times. When he left with Rama and Sita, it is said he did not even wink or sleep for a moment. And in place of him, his wife, it is said, Urmila, slept till the day he came back. What does Lakshmana, who does not sleep, symbolize? It symbolizes the vigilant mind, which does not lose its awareness, presence, even for a moment. It is always keeping an eye on the self, Shree Rama. The awareness, which needs to be turned towards the self because it is constantly engaged externally, ends up missing the truth, the reality of who one is. And such a power was represented by Lakshmana. The Vairagya, the vigilance is what the fact that he never slept represents the vigilance. In fact, if you remember, even in the Bhagavad Gita, we spoke about Arjuna, right? That Arjuna could just take a few wings and he could, that was all. He had won over Nidra. That is why he was called Buddha. He was called the one who had won over the Vasana of Nidra. Because Nidra is also a Vasana. That attentive, that is how he could be a great archer. That awareness, that alertness that he had. Now, one thing we must remember is, though Lakshmana stayed with Rama, if you remember the chants of the Hanuman Chalisa, it actually says, Bharata hi samabhai, tum mama priya, Bharata hi samabhai. Which means, though Bharata did not really be with Rama, the connection, because he almost mirrored Rama all the time. It is said that all the time he was such an excellent ruler in the absence of Rama, taking care of every bit, but his heart and mind would always be contemplating, what would Rama be doing now? What would Rama be doing now? What he would be eating now? How would he be sleeping now? Contemplation on the self while even being in the Vyavaharika. Right? These aspects are very important because we quite often just simply listen to the story and think, oh, what's so great about the story? It is only because we listen to these stories only with our mind. With our mind, we may do the Shravana, but when you do the Manana and when you do the Nidithyasana, is when you realize, so when you do the Manana is when the Ramayana enters in you to tell you the relevance of every character and how the wisdom from these characters need to be extracted for one's own life. The idea of a Ramayana given by whether it was Tulsi Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayana, Kamba Ramayana, right, Bhakta Ramayana, there are many versions, Ananda Ramayana, Adhyatma Ramayana. So many versions of Ramayana are nothing but representations of the internal state of the listener and the perceiver of these itihasas. Do you understand what it means? If my ability to look at things is very, very much at the gross level, then I look at it as an object. But if I have developed an inner eye to go beyond what the object seems, what the words are telling, then I can actually realize the essence of that object or the words or the deva or the devata or that tattva that I am connected to. The physicality is a very first, you can say, level of it. The proximity that we want, that we, even with the name or even with the form, is definitely a great way. But when that proximity actually starts becoming part of you, and the proximity is not about external but internal, then you live that Rama, Ramana within you at all times. That is where the journey of the outer Rama is, to finally take you to the inner Rama, right? And that is the story of Ramayana, to explain how this proceeds and how each one of us has to understand this wisdom and extract it for our own learning, assimilate it, synthesize it, and bring out our Ramayana, the story of our inner Rama. That is the real understanding of Ramayana. That is when the Ramayana is actually received in the essence of what it is meant to. Right? And depending on where we stand in our own journey, we look at the stories accordingly. Right? In Saddarshanam, we have seen the 14 lokas, the various mind states that each one operates from. And based on that, based on the mind state he is operating, he perceives the Lord. Jaki rahi bhavana jaisi, Prabhu Muratin dekhi vaisi, says Tulsidas Ji. Why does he say that? Because आपकी मन की भावना जो है, उसी के अनुसार आप चीजों को देखते हो. यदि उस मन के भावना को निश्चल, अचल कर उस तत्व के परे आप जा सकते हो, then you see the real Rama. Right? That is why Tulsidas Ji again says that Rama Nama is even more powerful than the very Rama, he says. And he says that the Bhakta of Rama are more potent than Rama himself. What does this mean? Because he is here referring to going beyond the physicality, the grossness. Right? Nothing wrong. Saguna is also a beautiful way to relate. But let us not remain and get stuck there. The stories were given by the rishis for us to assimilate them, to do the manan in them, to extract this wisdom and apply it in our life. Somebody the other day I was talking to, they said, look, if I have to point a finger at you and say, Rekha ji, aap aise kariye, aap aise kariye, aap aise rahiye, aap ye kariye. So that doesn't make a lot of, that doesn't kind of give a lot of, it's not very easy, right? First of all, Rekha ji should be open to this feedback. Second, even her understanding has to be in line with what somebody is giving her as the feedback. Right? Third, to contemplate it and to apply it. So the rishis thought, the love that they had, they said, why not simply put these values, virtues, thinking, knowledge, understanding in the form of stories? Because who doesn't love stories? Who doesn't remember stories? Isn't it? But to decode the stories is a function of a sharp intellect or a mind which has been surrendered and an intellect which has been empowered with the right understanding. That is very, very important. And that is where we will see what happens. Of course, I missed Shatrugna. Shatrugna. Right? Shatrugna, the one who could defeat all the enemies, but had all the humility. Okay, so Shatrugna represents that aspect of selflessness and humility that remains in a person even in spite of defeating all the enemies. Very important. When we, many times within us also, if we have overcome some aspects, we feel very great about ourselves. And therefore, Shatrugna, that is why, because he was able to win over the enemies, he had that sense of selflessness and humility. He actually stays in Ayodhya and takes care of the kingdom. Right? Now, in the story, we know, of course, how Dasharatha got the payasa, and then, of course, he divided it, and how the two queens gave their part and part. That is how the four sons were born. Now, one must understand, as we go along the story, I am only representing right now a particular perspective. This is not the ultimate perspective or a final perspective. It is a perspective because this same thing can be viewed in 360 degrees based on where and what is it that you want to extract from these stories. Right? So when you look at the four sons, these can be looked at four sons, or these can be also represented as dharma, artha, kama, moksha. You understand? They can also be interpreted in these ways. And because you need all these four for a well-rounded kingdom, Dasharatha, a good mind, a good kshatriya, a good kshatra would naturally give birth to such four robust children. Now we saw how Dasharatha's queens were the intellect, Dasharatha represented the mind, and when this intellect, the intellect which is overcome with passion, which is completely also has compassion, but when it is, you can say, constantly badgered by someone called Manthara. Mandam mandam chalati iti Manthara. Slowly, slowly, she walks. Why? Because she's crooked. You know, the crooked doesn't attack you in one day. Slowly, slowly, your mind is poisoned, isn't it? Every day the person will come and tell you one thing, little by little, not even as if he's really complaining about anybody, but just trying to, whisper things about somebody to you. Have you met such people in your life? What do we call them? Gossip mongers. Information here, putting it together, constantly applying it little bit by bit to you. So when an intellect which is not vigilant and is slowly, slowly, slowly receiving these inputs from Manthara, she kept on, feeding inputs. In fact, Valmiki Ji says in his Ramayana that, she tried, of course, in a very sweet way, trying to say, look, of course, Rama is going to become the king, and, then your son will be. Even that did not bother Kaikeyi, it is said. But women being women, when you pitch them against each other, the element of Rajas takes over as jealousy. And when Manthara says, oh yes, Rama becoming the king, obviously, you who have been so dear to the king, now slowly that importance will go to Kaushalya. That didn't go well with Kaikeyi. Here, on the other side, Dasharatha is growing old, says, I have to give my Rajya to the next heir. And who is more deserving than Rama? Because everybody unanimously wants to have him. Right? So that is the other side of Dasharatha going on. He's observing the young princess. But in between, we have a little story of how, as young princess, Vishwamitra arrives at Ayodhya. Vishwamitra, the Mitra of the entire universe, he arrives there and tells whom? Dasharatha, that I need your sons Rama and Lakshmana to protect my yajnas. We've already seen that yuga was all about yajnas, right? We saw how Dharma has four legs, and Treta was all about yajnas. Satya, yajna, tapas or shaucham, and dana in the Kali Yuga, right? That is why we forget to do any dana. Why? Because it overpowers us. So in going back to Treta, Vishwamitra says, I need the son, Rama and Lakshmana. Dasharatha, obviously, heavy heart, but being insisted by Vasishtha, allows the sons to go. What does this really represent? The self that is so pure, that is so fragrant, in the presence of a preceptor like Vishwamitra, arrives into the world for a much greater cause. Right? The self is not to be kept in the cupboard and, then the avatars would not have happened. Right? The yogis, the jnanis who gave us the gurus. So, they take the form. Rama steps out on the behest of Vishwamitra and along with Lakshmana to protect the yajnas. And whom does he kill first? He kills Tataka. Right? So Rama stepping out is the self itself stepping out into the world to execute its ayana. The story, see, the self is one, but when it takes the body and it steps out in the world, it is the very representation of what? Dharma. Remember, we discussed this before, that truth, that satyam, one part of the dharma chakra, when that truth expresses itself in the world, it expresses as dharma. That is why Rama is the representation of the ultimate dharma. We say dharma rajya, Rama rajya, right? Nobody upheld dharma like Rama, we say, isn't it? His upama is given even by Jizabai to Shivaji. She says, look, this is the kind of a king you have to be. And what a great divine blessing that Shivaji also receives a guru who is called Ramadasa, right? Who himself is the self-incarnate, but teaches Shivaji that his job, his role, how he has to express that in the world. So self does not always mean that somebody is going to sit in the corner in one village or in one, vana, and that is one aspect of the self that we see, which is the Guru Tattva that we see. But the same very Guru Tattva provides the line or the path for that truth to express as dharma in the world. Here, the role being played by Vishwamitra. If you look at Bhagavan Ramana also, the same aspect was brought. He was brought into light in the world by Sheshadri Swamigal, who was himself a Devi Upasaka, a great divine Devi Upasaka. It is almost like Devi picking up her own child out of the father's lap, bringing him out there for those to receive what he was to radiate. That is the grandeur of Aruna and Achala, the mother and the father principle together, right? So here also Vishwamitra calls for Rama for the well-being of the universe. He says, please don't keep him in your mahal, in your palace. Let him come, let him be seen and known, let him do his dharma, right? And his dharma is to protect everyone's well-being. And Tataka is the first Asura, Sura and Asur, right? Now you all know what these mean. Sur means I am in alignment, I am in harmony. Asur means I am losing my harmony. I am in conflict. असुर का मतलब कोई बाहर बैठा राक्षस नहीं है, मेरे ही अंदर ये दोनों सुर और असुर की संभावनाएं हमेशा चलती रहती हैं। सुर है जब मैं अपने सत्य, अपने सेल्फ, अपने आत्म के साथ I am aligned. When I am deviated from my true nature, I do not know what is the purpose of my life. I do not know who I am. What is this prapancha? What is the purpose of my execution, my emotions, my thinking, how they need to be directed? When that understanding is not there, what happens or what is generated inside are the asuras. We also saw that asuras are not bad beings, are disharmonies or diseases that must come up, then only they will get taken care of, right? If I have a toxicity in my body, unless it comes out, I will not know I am impacted and infected and I have to take care. So instead of looking at it in a negative way, if I'm able to see if those dur vyavaharas, dur are if come into my attention, there is a possibility for me to realize and work upon them. So also here Tataka represents the durasha, negativities. See, the minute we want to start working on ourselves, what happens? All the negativities or all the blocks, obstacles start coming. Yes or no? Yes or no? From within, all the negativities in form of what? The first negativities are all the wrong and false assumptions and expectations and understandings I have. What is the first understanding? I am this body. वहां ही से जो शुरू होता है, फिर जो आयना हम लिखते हैं वो कभी रामायणा नहीं बन पाता. You getting the point? So here also Tataka represents the false assumptions, the false expectations, the false understandings and beliefs we have about our own selves, our own life, or about life, about people, about universe in general, that never allows me to start on a path of inquiry. It never allows me to inquire. Right? So the first Danava or first Asura that Rama kills is this Durasha or false expectations. Right? What are the various kinds of false expectations? Oh, this person is always going to support me in my life. ये तो हमेशा मेरे साथ ही रहेगा. I am always going to be like this. Things will always, things which I love are always going to stay with me. Right? What people think about me is important because that is what matters the most. How people see me, what image people view me in, what people think about me. Material world is the greatest sukha. Various misconceptions we have. Right? Partial or full in different ways. So here also, Tataka represents all those wrong and false expectations. I'm going slow because I want each one of us to within look what are the different aspects of these things that we have for us to look in, and work upon. What kind of false expectations? My mother or my parents will all, as a kid, children have this, my parents will never die. Right? They'll always be there for me. Even when the children, when the girls grow up, many times they expect that their parents should always support them. Nobody should hurt me. Nobody can hurt me. Or if somebody has hurt me, then by being XYZ with a certain behavior, I can insulate myself from that pain. Many, many such durashas, false understandings. So when I'm free from these false expectations, right? Through what? Through intense inquiry. Atma Vichara alone can allow us to see through these falsities that we are holding on to. Why? Because if we hold on to these falsities, then we never realize Rama. Right? We never realize our true potential. Rama here represents our true potential, isn't it? Then she is said to have two sons. Who are the two sons? Maricha and Subahu. Now, the minute you start inquiry, you know what happens? A lot of kachara starts coming out. Then what do? We don't want to see that part of us. No. We either avoid it, or we just, cover it up, or we run away from it, or we avoid the person itself who initiates inquiry into us. Because we don't like to see those false assumptions crumble down. We hold our life on those falsities. So now I have built my whole house, my whole castle in that falsity, right? Gandharva Nagara, says the Upanishad. My entire Gandharva Nagara of clouds. In the clouds I have built based on these false assumptions. No, I don't want to crumble it. So sometimes people say, no, don't tell me this. It's okay, mujhe mat batao. ठीक है, जो है जैसा है, let it be like that only. I don't want to know it. Right? So, Maricha represents those negativities that start coming from within. We don't like seeing ourselves. Can I have such a feeling also in me? Can I also be jealous? Can I also think bad of someone? All these, because you will get angry with someone, you get angry, then you inquire, you realize you're getting angry because you're jealous. Then you wonder, how can that be possible? So Maricha represents those negativities that start coming up when we start inquiry. And that is why inquiry is a path that many people steer away from. Because looking at yourself naked, looking at yourself clear and questioning is very painful. Even when others tell you, it is even more painful. Even if it is your guru who shows you, it is very painful. And you for yourself also do not want to see it. So you avoid. What do you avoid? You avoid inquiry, you avoid the guru, you avoid every pain that comes in your life, because the pain is also showing you what you don't want to see. But you don't want to inquire into that pain also. Right? So, what does Rama do with Maricha? It is said, Valmiki Ji says, he throws him off far into the ocean, away from the ocean, far off the ocean. Which ocean? The ocean of negativities, the ocean of negativities arising from the samsara. And then that turns Maricha to become a very devotee of Shree Rama. Over time, he actually starts seeing the greatness in Rama, and he transmutes from his negativities to positivities. So remember, what do we have to do with our negativities? Oh, I hate myself for this. That's not going to help. What are you hating? That which is part of you? Observing it, inquiring into it, watching it with deep attention, acceptance, attention, observation, inquiry, and transmuting it allows you to overcome these negativities. And one of the great ways how Maricha turns into a bhakta of Rama, a great way to transmute our negativities is through bhakti. Because bhakti is that form of love, devotion that is pointed towards something much superior and higher. The Rama, the Nama, the God. And that, over time, the very low emotion which was pulling us down becomes alchemized to a more powerful form of expression in the form of selfless seva, bhakti, love, devotion. And of course, it doesn't stop at devotion. In time to come, the devotion when ripens, remember, devotion by itself is not the end. That devotion when it ripens, it leads you to the self. We'll see how it led Maricha to that. The third was Subahu. Bahu, Subahu, right? And he represents Dukkha. Obviously, when you have false expectations, wrong ideas, right? You are in your wrong world of beliefs. Everybody loving me means I am good, I am happy. If this is what is your belief or expectation or assumption, then constantly what will come up as Maricha? Trying to match up to the expectations of those people all the time. By not knowing who you really are, trying to become what you are not, instead of being who you are, whatever way you are, realizing your true potential and self, you end up trying to become somebody, do something that others like, and end up in dukkha. Because is there an end to what people will expect from you? There would always be a constant change. That is what Subahu represents. The dukkha comes and fortifies you very well. Bahu, it envelops you very well. Strong arms of dukkha envelop you. All starting from the wrong understanding of life and your own existence. And then when these are killed, the yajna becomes safala. What is the yajna here representing? The sadhana. The sadhana that a sadhaka undertakes, right? In the journey or in a spiritual course, or of simply living a life of greater understanding and integration. This itself is a sadhana. That sadhana is achieved when these asuras are killed. And who is transmuted? Maricha. The negativities are not to be killed. They are simply to be understood and transmuted. They have come because of wrong understanding. When that is killed, when the wrong understanding is killed, the negativity naturally becomes your virtue, right? And the dukkha is killed. So Rama kills Subahu and Tataka and transmutes Maricha to become a bhakta or a devotee. Okay? Now, again, when we look at virtues, I'll bring that point again and again. Virtues are not absolute. We have to always remember this. If virtues are absolute, then a lion should never eat another animal. Right? Then Krishna should not have given the understanding for Arjuna to fight the... So virtue means dynamically, contextually, responsible. Remember the word DCR. Contextually, dynamic. Why dynamic? Because Prakriti is dynamic. She is not going to stay stale with our... We are the ones who are stale. एक बार यही idea use किया, दूसरी बार भी वही idea we want to use. But the person is no more the same. The situation is no more the same. It is constantly dynamic. So context to context, dharma must be evaluated. And the response able. Able means taking everything holistically. Not only me, myself into consideration. Right? Not just me, myself into consideration. Holistic. And when it is holistic, it could also sometimes be that you have to sacrifice, you have to go through pain. But you still know the larger good. That is why Kausalya Putra Ram. When the larger good is always, only in such a mother's womb can a Rama be born. Can Dharma be born? in she who considers her welfare in the welfare of everything. We are very smart. We, in the name of Karma Yoga, also will do Karma Yoga where we will have some benefit in terms of maybe acknowledgement, appreciation, or some kind of, plaque should be put by my name. I donated so much, or some blessings will come. These are all our little calculations. That is how we do. Do it in a place where you don't like. That itself will tell you that you have a raga, dvesha there. That will not allow you to do it. Right? That itself means that is not karma yoga. If you're doing it because you prefer, because you have a liking, you have a preference, you have an idea, you have a belief about getting something back, receiving something, or even if that receipt is just your mental satisfaction. Many times parents or mothers or we just do because we feel good about doing it. I donate. Why? Because it makes me feel good. Even that, where it is absolutely without any expectation, unconditional, pure, that is the form of yoga. So here, dynamically, contextually, response able, right? So the yajna is a representation of the sadhana that gets completed when these three asuras are annihilated. Two are annihilated, one is transmuted. Okay? Now, once this is done, Vishwamitra, of course, then receives the invitation from Mithila Nagari and he takes the young princes to Mithila. Raja Janaka is there. His daughter, Sita, and the Swayamvara with the one whom not only that she also accepts, but also who breaks the Shiva Dhanusha. Very interesting. The Shiva Dhanusha is also called as Bhava Chapa. Bhava Chapa. Bhava kya hai? Bhava matlab samsara, world. Chapa, bow. And Rama not just strings the Bhava Chapa, but also breaks it. What does it mean? The Bhava Chapa means, one, there is so much of disarray in the world, right? Not only do you have to string these disarrays, but he breaks the illusions of the samsara also. See, we try to organize ourselves in samsara with virtues, good things and all. Yes, that is on one side. Yes, keeps going. But to believe that the samsara is the ultimate truth is also an illusion, right? To believe that it is always going to be this way, that I am always going to be this way, things are going to be this way, is the greatest illusion. To hold on to things is the greatest illusion. So Bhavachapa represents that, or Shiva Dhanusha represents where he breaks the samsara, the bhava, which binds us, which binds the self from realizing its true nature. And there's a very beautiful representation. If you look at the bow, it's kind of like this, right? And a string. Any part of your body which represents that on your face? The Varanasi. Eyebrows. If you look at it, they are like the Dhanusha. And the bow, when it is strung and broken, right in between is this point where the ego is dissolved. Because it is here, this ego, that keeps you believe in the reality of the universe. When the ego is broken or is dissolved, is when it realizes its true nature. It is represented as the blossoming of the 1,000-petal lotus. What does it mean? Simply means that your life blossoms in its true essence. Right? Life blossoms in the true essence. It doesn't mean we will die or, because we have moved out of ego. So am I going to die? Am I not going to exist? No. That is the very reason why Janaka was called a Videha. Videha Mukta. He was a Mukta, Jivan Mukta in Videha, in the body itself. Jivan Mukti. Right? What is the point of Mukti beyond? We don't know about that. But that which is possible even when one is in the body, to realize that is why Janaka represents Videha and Mithila represents that space where such a Raja rules, and it is in such a king's palace that the gentle, beautiful daughter Sita arrives. She is not born. She is not Andaja. She is not Pindaja. She is Ayonija, not born from a yoni. Ayonija. It means that if self has to now express itself into the world, who is needed? The Shakti is needed. Devi's energy comes together to allow the self to express itself in the world and write its ayana. Right? And thus, Rama and Sita represent that merging or that union of Prakriti and Purusha. And we see that Urmila, the younger sister of Sita, is married to Lakshmana, and the daughters of Janaka's brother Kushadwaja are married to Bharata and Shatrughna. And thus the Ramarajya seems to be, on its way in its grandeur until when Dasharatha decides time for Rajya Abhisheka has come, which we saw. And here Manthara, Manda iti Manthara, Manda Chalati iti Manthara has influenced the intellect, the Rajasic intellect. Remember, she's already passion incarnate, powerful. She has the power. So if this passion is wrongly channelized, such a powerful energy gets deludes the mind, that is Dasharatha, causes immense sorrow, and she goes into her Kopa Bhavana, where Dasharatha comes and she tells, it is time for you to give me the 2 boons that you had offered. Dasharatha hears this because it's least expected of Kaikeyi. Such a powerful woman, such a compassionate, somebody who has loved Rama so much, who has given all her love and more than even to Bharata to Rama. More than even Bharata to Rama. And then Rama is summoned in the Kopa Bhavana. He sees his father in immense sorrow and his mother's hair completely open in a very angry state. And when he hears, he's extremely grieving to see his father in that state. He smiles and tells his mother, "Oh mother, you could have directly told me. Why did you have to tell father?" Because having told him, he feels now guilty that he is the one responsible to send me to this vana, which you could have just avoided. I don't want to put him in this shoka. Remember? What did we say? What leads to what leads to what? Attachment leads to shoka. Shoka leads to moha. Moha means delusion. Attachment means raga. Raga leading to shoka. Shoka leading to moha. Moha means delusion. And when this delusion surpasses, then the intellect cannot think anymore. It's already deluded. It has made its worst commandment. Rama says, "Oh mother, I would have left without any this. In fact, this would have just saved all the pain that my father is going through." And then when he goes to take leave to Kausalya, look at the grandeur in Valmiki Ramayana. He says, "Oh mother, my father has given me the Kanana Rajya, the Rajya of the forest." Okay. Now, this is also very important to understand that one may look at it as when we look at it from one angle, we see the wrong of Kaikeyi. But remember, for the self, for it to express its greater this, the story has to happen in that way. Right? And that is why Rama has to step out. Not just for the reason that Kaikeyi said, but also because this was how the Lord was going to give a lot of other people who were awaiting to have his presence and grace. Right? So, as he goes along, he meets Kevata, Shabari, of course. He meets Atri, Anasuya. Many aspects of these the stories are covered in these meetings that he goes through. But before that, there is one more story as part of which is of Ahalya. Right? As he goes along, he is told about the curse that Devi Ahalya has been showered upon by Gautama Rishi. And again, this is very important because you have to understand that in the Itihasas and the Puranas, every boon has actually led to a problem and every Shrapa has actually led to something better. Yes or no? Kunti got the boon from Durvasa and Karna was born. Right? Here also we will see how Ahalya, the curse which was given to Ahalya, becomes the very source of her liberation at the feet of the Lord. But how does it become the source of liberation? This is very important to understand. Why? Because in the original Ramayana, it is said that Ahalya is staying there. It is not said that she becomes a stone actually. I'm talking about the Valmiki Ramayana, but there are other versions also. And there is nothing wrong in multiple versions of a story. Remember, stories are to give you the perspectives. If you get caught with the detailing of the story, the elements, the names, the little bit tweaks and here and there, you've missed the story completely. Right? So here, even if you say she was turned into a stone, there's nothing wrong because what it represents is the mind of Ahalya, which was always ekachitta with Gautama Rishi, somehow got wavered. The mind got wavered and the Indra, who was Indra? The senses took over. Though in the story level, we may say, oh, Indra came and she did not, in the form of Indra was mesmerized or wanted to have Ahalya, with him, and therefore he changed the form into Gautama Rishi and entered the heart. So people will say, if your women empowerment groups will come back and say, how is Gautama fair by giving Ahalya this kind of a curse and this and that, he should have, what's wrong, she should not be expected. That's you missed the point completely. If you want to hold on to it, please go on and hold on to it. But if you look at it this way, like I said, how Rama looks, He says, I got the Vanarajya. And it is so important because he spends his life in the Vanarajya. Because what it actually represents is when you are in the self, you are aligned to the harmony of life and nature. That is what it really represents. Whether it was Chitrakuta, whether it was the various forests, the Dandakaranya, where all they traveled. So here, Rishi Gautama, the curse that Rishi Gautama gives Ahalya must be interpreted or can be interpreted as, for him, Ahalya was very dear, not just because she was his wife, but she was a great intellect. Great possibility was there in her. And when that intellect slips, it's like the guru getting angry with you. Because you have tremendous potential. When you slip from that, the greatest pain is to who? Is to the one who is dear to you. Isn't it? If a child slips, if somebody slips, the greatest pain, if two children are doing wrong, the mother will always scold whom? The elder child, isn't it? Who is the elder child? The intellect or the mind? The intellect. So here also, instead of course, Indra goes through a lot of his own challenges, karma challenges because of what he does. But cursing Ahalya here means that impurity in her which made her slip, he wanted to correct her and liberate her. That is why he says, you will stay here and come back when you are liberated by Shree Rama, by the Vishnu Avatara And again, one must understand, Ahalya does not retort, retaliate, defend. Why? Because a highly refined intellect can see the slip up that has happened in it. This is not about ego here. Oh, I just slipped off one thing in just 1 minute. I just made a mistake only once. So why you should do this to me? Because the vigilance is so key. Right? So you have to again appreciate these aspects from a perspective. If you're going to talk about it from a mundane, I made only one mistake. Why should I be punished for that? So what? I'll not repeat it again. These things are, no. Here we are not talking about the, day-to-day vyavaharika mistakes. Here we are talking about a refined intellect which slipped from that ultimate. And therefore, the guru becomes extremely, Gautama Rishi represents the guru who therefore tells Ahalya that you have to stay here. And the greatness of Ahalya is that she does not defy it, she does not defend it, she does not lie, she does not give excuses, she does not try to retort because she understands where she has slipped. That is the power of a strong intellect which is driven by Shreyas. She understands where she has slipped and therefore she takes to Prayaschitta. What is Prayaschitta? We think it's punishment. No. When look within you, if you have a very sharp, clean, powerful intellect which is powered by inquiry, even if you make one mistake, you will have a lot of guilt in you. The guilt will be there and it will keep on coming. But if that Prayaschitta is done, if it corrects itself, when the intellect corrects itself, it no more suffers guilt. It becomes purified. Right? It does not have the guilt. It becomes purified. So Prayaschitta is not somebody giving you punishment, is one's own understanding that I should go through this tapas. Tapas means what? Tapana, the fire which will purify me. That is what Praya Chitta is. Prayaha Chitta, the mala of the Chitta which I could not, I will now correct it. I will surrender and I will correct myself. See, this is very important, the story of Ahalya. Why? Because in our life, everybody definitely commits some or the other grave blunder. We all may have sometime done it, may do it. But the point is not to feel guilty about it, to correct it, to accept it, to see it, to accept it, to correct it, to surrender and mutate to a higher energy is what it is. It is not to feel miserable about yourself, dejected, completely lost. These are all low entropy aspects which do not allow you to rise above. They subdue you. Here, if there is an understanding of a mistake, you simply look at it, you correct it, you rise above it. You owe it and you rise above it. That's it. There is nothing else that one needs to feel guilty about. That is the beauty of Ahalya. Right? There's a very beautiful verse in Manate Shlok by Sant Ramdas. He says, Ahalya Shira Raghave Mukta Keli Padila Gata Divya Ho Nageli Jaya Varnita Shinali Vedavani Nupekshi Kadara Madasa Bhimani. Means Ahalya Shira means stone. Raghave Mukta Keli. The self liberated, who owed up its shortcomings and apologized in itself and surrendered to correct. Padila Gata Divya Ho Nigeli. His feet. Feet means what? What do they represent? It is not about the physical feet. The grace of the Lord touched her because of her prayaschitta, and she was released to a higher level. See, the Shrapa allowed her to meet the Lord himself, right? Whom even Jaya Varnita Shinali Vedavani. The Vedas also cannot express the greatness of this Lord. There's a beautiful song on Bhagavan. Vedamam vilakata unnai enda geetam vilakidamo. Means that which cannot, the Vedas which cannot exclaim you, how can a song exclaim you, Ramana? It's a beautiful song. So, Nupekshi kada Rama Dasa Abhimani. Dasa Abhimani means when the Abhimana, because the intellect has the Abhimana, I am right. I know what I did. Why should I say sorry? Why should I apologize? Why should I correct? I'm saying no, I made a mistake. Okay, I will see that it is not done again. You see the Abhimana? So Shree Rama thus liberates Ahalya on his way. And then there is this, in the interest of time, I will just bring one more story. Too many stories are fighting. Which one to say? Okay. So remember, one thing about dharma is what is right, and standing up for right is right, even if it means you're the only one. This aspect is demonstrated by Jatayu. When Sita is taken, he knows he cannot conquer Ravana. Because who is Ravana? Dashanana, great power, the one who has won the 3 lokas, right? We'll see that when we do the Dashera session. That's why I'm not going to get too much into it. But just this aspect of understanding that when Rama comes along with Sita, the whole story of Ramayana becomes then alone relevant. The real Ayana begins when Shakti joins the self and flows as an expression into the world for the sake of igniting that Ramayana within us. This is a very important part. Why? Because a small, beautiful story is when Rama and Vishwamitra and Lakshmana, they go to Mithila and the young princes say, okay, we just want to go around the Mithila Nagari. And they go to the gardens and they're watching, and there the Sakhis along with Sita also comes. And one of the Sakhis sees these two young princes and she's mesmerized. She's like so mesmerized by their looks, by their bahus, by their innocence yet in their face, by their glow, that she doesn't know what to say. So she goes and tells Sita, and Sita says, just at least explain, tell something. So Sita, so the Dasi, the Sakhi says, what do I tell about them, O Sita? The eyes which saw them cannot speak, and the mouth that speaks did not see them. How can I speak about it? How can I say about them? It's a very simple story or an allegory, but it is the representation that the self, how much ever you speak about it, can never really be expressed and told what it means, what it is. And that which experiences it no more speaks about it. You know? So that is the beauty. Why this is important? Because when we start Rama, self, we somehow commoditize. We might end up just objectifying and even commoditizing it, you know, like something. But that is not what it is. That's why, if you remember, it is beyond the known. You have to drop all the known to experience that which is beyond the known. That is Rama. And of course, the scriptures have a lot of such verses that speak about the self, how it can never be heard, spoken, yet somebody hears, yet somebody speaks. Ashcharyascha vakta, kushalascha, you know, so kushalascha labdha, ashcharya gyata, kushalanu shishtaha, the one who is. So these are all verses from the Kathopanishad, from the Bhagavad Gita. They all come and they'll speak the same thing, that it's very difficult to speak about it. Even though somebody says, I hear about it, even though they say, I have seen it, even though they say, I know it, even though they hear it from a jnani, wonder of wonder, very rare is a being who hears it, knows it, receives it, and realizes it. It is it. So, to understand Rama, very difficult, because you can't understand him from the intellect. You can't understand him with the mind. You can't understand him with the emotion. You can't understand him with just the Saguna Rupa. You have to receive him in all these forms also and go beyond it to really realize him. That's why Bhagavan says, Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahma Matram Ya Ahamahamiti Sakshat Atmarupena Bhat. Right? That which does the spandana in the Hridaya, Rama Hridayam. What can you speak about it? It is because of the Rama, because of the self that everything is, but everything is not the self. Okay? So, that is why Rama is also says, Ramo Vigraha, Vigrahavan Dharmaha. I just want to end with just one character I cannot not afford to introduce. because while we do the other part on Dashera, this character is the ultimate character that takes one to Rama, that of Hanumana. And who does Hanumana really represent here? Hanumana represents the Prana Shakti, the Shiva and Shakti Amsha, the Rudramsha, who come in the form of actually the Guru Tattva here. Rama's Duta we say, na? We call Hanumana's Rama Duta Atulita Baladhama. Who is the Duta of the self? Who will tell you about the self? The mute God in the temple, whom we even can't hear, even if he must be speaking. In Vithala, in Namadeva's story, we saw how Vithala tells Namadeva to go to Visoba Khechar. And Visoba Khechar is like showing his feet at the Shivalinga and sleeping. It doesn't matter to him. And he says, what is this guy like that? How is he going to be my guru or teach me what is the reality of the guru, of the divine? So he says, who are you? I was sent by Vithala to you. Why? Because Vithala says, that work I can't do. That is the work that the guru does. He takes you to this realization. Right? If you look at many, many divine gurus, Sainath, Sai, he always said Ram. Right? Which Rama was he referring to? When Gandhiji said Ram, which Rama was he referring to? When Kabir said Ram, which Rama was he referring to? Right? When Khusro was speaking about Ram, which Rama was he referring to? Right? So the understanding of Rama is incomplete without Hanumana. And Hanumana here represents the Guru Tattva. Because if you look at who is the first person who goes to meet Sita? Sita represents the Prakriti Tattva. Prakriti Tattva means the Aham Tattva, the Jiva. The Jiva, as long as it is with Rama, everything is perfect. Beautiful. That's how they spend 10 years in Chitrakuta, it is said. A year in Dandakaranya, 10 years in Chitrakuta, and 1 year in Panchavati, Nasik, that we know of. It's only in the last 1 year of the 14 years that the episode of Ravana takes place, which we will see on the day of Dashera. But here, the first person who goes to the Jiva as the Duta of the self is the Guru Tattva in the form of Hanumana. That's why he is Veera, Dheera, Vijaya, Shakti. Where is the Shakti in Hanumana? Shakti is his tail. That is how Mother Parvati blesses him, because everybody has given this child something. So she says, okay, nothing is left for me. That's how she gives Hanumana the wonderful tale, the story of the tail, which is intelligent by itself. It does not need any direction. It is intelligent in itself, sashakt in itself. Okay, so this aspect is very important, because when you see that even in case of Sugriva, even in case of Rama meeting Sugriva, even in case of Sita first, even going Prabhu Mudrika Meli Mukhumahi, Jaladilandhigai Acharajnahi. How? Where is this power? The Guru can have this power only because he is in touch with the self. And therefore, he becomes that where he facilitates them to reach the self. Okay? Prabhu Mudrika Meli Mukhamahi Jaladi Landhikai Acharajanahi. So it is said that when he was going across the Sagara also, Mudrika of Bhagavan, he held it in his mouth. What does it mean? That Satat, the Nama Japa of the divine Rama, Anjaneya was himself capable of fighting everyone in the war. That was the power. It was yet that such a great Guru, such a great power is yet always subservient in the ultimate truth. That is what Rama, the Dasatva of Hanumana represents. It is not a bowing down because someone is more powerful. It is that eternally the Guru Tattva is in the self is in the Guru. That is why Ramayana, it is said that wherever you read Ramayana, wherever it is read, Hanumana appears. How else can you get Rama but through this great bhakta of Rama? The powerful, not just powerful, also buddhiman, right? Ashtasiddhi, Navanidhi, Ashtasiddhi, Navanidhi ke data, right? So the Guru is that element that bestows everything upon you when you are aligned to it, not when you are partially aligned. So therefore, he was bestowed all the power and more that Rama had because of his ultimate surrender. There was no ahankara in him. There was complete resonance, harmony, alignment to the self. Right? That is why even when Rama leaves earth, he says, Hanumana, you are a Chiranjeeva, you have to be here. He leaves his tattva in the Guru form of Hanumana. So when Hanumana is called upon, Rama naturally is already present. क्योंकि भक्त की भक्ति में अगर भगवान नहीं, वो आप भगवान को कहीं और पा ही नहीं सकते. और कहाँ देखोगे उसको? भक्त में ही भगवान दिखता है. Right? The very incarnation of Arunachala was Bhagavan. Incarnation means what? The embodiment. If you had to see Arunachala, you could see Bhagavan. If you saw Bhagavan, you would see Arunachala. If you saw Santa Ramadas, you saw Rama. If you saw Rama, you could see him. Right? And such a great Guru, such a great Tattvi alone can give birth to a Sena that is aligned with the Lord. That is why all the monkeys considered as the mind which is wavering, he aligns them with Sugriva in turn to the Lord. So even the mind which is wavering can be brought to rest, can be brought to stillness when it is aligned to the Guru Tattva or to the self. Again, one must remember, aligning to the self doesn't mean you become inactive. It simply means whatever action needs to be done from you will be done without any doership, without any kartritva and bhokritva. The ahankara, the aham tattva, mamakara is not there anymore. The jnani is seen to do everything like everyone else, but whom we see as the jnani is not what the jnani sees himself as. He is one and all, right? Though we see him as one. And that is important for our journey. The state in which they are, the space in which they are, there is no duality. But the duality appears to us because we see the boundary and we see the boundary there. That's why Baba always said, Allah Malik. What did he mean? Which Allah is he referring to? Which Malik is he referring to? There's a very beautiful this when somebody goes to Bhagavan and says, was Sai Baba really a realized being? And Bhagavan looks at the Sai Satcharit and he says, it says, Antaryami, the one who resides within. This itself means that he knows that alone is. Right? So, in Bhakti, there is a very beautiful verse by Khusro, which says, Khusro Nadiya Prem Ki. You should very carefully listen to this. Khusro Nadiya Prem Ki Ulti Vaki Dhar. Dhar means flow. Ulti Vaki Dhar. जो निकला सो डूब गया, जो निकला सो डूब गया, जो डूब गया सो हुआ पार. जो डूब गया सो हुआ पार. I don't think I want to explain it, because by explaining it, its power is lost. If you don't understand Hindi also, it doesn't matter. Receive the bhav, and I think that will be enough. I'll repeat it once again. Khusro nadiya prem ki ulti vaki dhar. Khusro nadiya prem ki ulti vaki dhar. Jo nikal gaya, so डूब गया. जो निकल गया सो डूब गया, जो डूबा सो हुआ पार. आप किसमें डूबना चाहते हैं? कैसे डूबना चाहते हैं? कहां पार जाना चाहते हैं? That is defined by the love, the purity of the love that you carry. And the one who dissolves in love is the one who takes it beyond. So, Rama Navami, the 9th day of Navaratri, because Rama, Durga, Lakshmi, Saraswati, the three energies coming together along with the self is the expression of Satya and Dharma. Satya as the Purusha, always Dharma as the expression of this truth. Dharma represents that eternal balance and harmony, the perfection of whatever is the way it is. Whether you and I understand, it doesn't matter, because we look at things only in our own myopic way. And it was also valuable because it comes in continuation with the Navaratri, and why its significance of the Navaratri, and how the power of Devi is always one with this journey for each one of us to realize, because it is she alone, by her grace, who allows us to realize the Rama within. Jai Shree Ram, Jai Hanuman.